Emily Dickinson had bees. Charles Bukowski had bluebirds and beer. But Walt Whitman had that grass. Welcome to Strip Cover Lit, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Fort, and we are here for another poetry discussion, which will appear in 3 separate playlists here on the channel. Number 1 being the Poetry Discussion playlist, number 2 being the Walt Whitman playlist, and number 3 being part 6 of the Song of Myself playlist. Now, the poem in question today is part 6 of Song of Myself. Fancy that. And it reads as such. A child said, "What is the grass?" fetching it to me with full hands. How could I answer the child? I do not know what it is any more than he. I guess it must be the flag of my disposition, out of hopeful, green stuff woven. Or, I guess, it is the handkerchief of the Lord, a scented gift and remembrancer designedly dropped, bearing the owner's name some way in the corners, that we may see and remark and say whose. Or, I guess, the grass is itself a child, a produced babe of the vegetation. Or, I guess it is a uniform hieroglyphic, and it means sprouting alike in broad zones and narrow zones, growing among black folks as among white. Canuck, Tuckahoe, Congressman, Cuff. I give them the same. I receive them the same. And now it seems to me the beautiful uncut hair of graves. Tenderly will I use you, curling grass. It may be you transpire from the breasts of young men. It may be you are from old people, or from offspring taken. It may be, if I had known them, I would have loved them, soon out of their mother's laps, and here you are, the mother's laps. The grass is very dark to be from the white heads of old mothers, darker than the colorless beards of old men, dark to come from under the faint red roofs of mouths. Oh, I perceive after all so many uttering tongues, and I perceive they do not come from the roofs of mouths for nothing. I wish I could translate the hints about the dead young men and women, and the hints about the old men and mothers, and the offspring taken soon out of their laps. What do you think has become of the young and old men? And what do you think has become of the women and children? They are alive and well somewhere. The smallest sprout shows there is really no death. And if ever there was, it led forward life, and does not wait at the end to arrest it, and ceased the moment life appeared. All goes onward and outward, nothing collapses. And to die is different from what anyone supposed, and luckier. So I want to start this discussion where the poem ends. All goes onward and outward, nothing collapses, and to die is different from what anyone supposed, and luckier. The smallest sprout shows there really is no death. This is about the cycle of life. Life turns over. Nature turns over. Everything is reproducing. Everything is regenerating. But it's kind of a rambling way to get about that, isn't it? And really, maybe it's about everything regenerating, everything reproducing. But if it is, Well, that's not really all that interesting a take, is it? That's not really all that unique a take, is it? That's not really all that original a take, is it? Nature reproduces, nature recycles, nature goes in circles. Well, let's go all the way back up here to the beginning. A child said, "What is the grass, fetching it to me with full hands?" How could I answer the child? I do not know what it is any more than he. What is that there? We have the child, and we have the I, we have the speaker. We have to imagine the speaker is older than the child. We have to imagine that what this is in this part of the poem is that recycling, that regeneration going on. We have the young and the old. Now, we don't have to envision the I as particularly old. We don't have to envision the speaker as Walt Whitman himself, but it's there for the taking. Either way, the speaker is old enough that the child is looking to him for guidance. I don't know that we really have any reason to believe the speaker is in fact a him other than we are associating it with Walt Whitman. His poetry seems to be more confessional, sort of, than to have a protagonist, to have a fictitious protagonist. But there's something else at play there, too. We have the child representing the youth, the young generation, the new grass, the short grass. We have the I representing the older, representing the long grass. We have the youth, the child, asking, "What is the grass?" And then we have an admission. I do not know what it is any more than he. So is it that the child grows up properly to become an adult? Is it that the question grows up properly to become an admission of ignorance, but then begins the conjecture? And I think in this poem, what we have is, it's easy to see this is a big, long list of nothings from Whitman. Oh, well, the grass is this, and if the grass is this, then the grass is that, and if the grass is that, well, then it must be this other thing too, because I said so, and there's no real link. But hey, it's my poem, baby. But I think there's a little bit more to the grass than that. Grass is said here to be of my disposition, out of hopeful green stuff woven. But the more we get into the grass as it appears in the poem, there's a couple things that stand out. There does not appear to be any individual blades of grass. The grass itself seems to be sort of uniform and sort of anonymous. At the same time, the grass does seem to represent an awful lot of things. The grass, obviously, is being used here to remark on people. There are individuals who do this, there are individuals who do that, there are individuals, there are individuals, there are individuals. But in the way that Whitman has gone through many of these verses, goes through many of his poems, there is an independent statement to be made about his country. The grass is rooted, we are told, hypothetically, in the dead. That grass grows from previous generations. Previous generations tied to this soil. And it seems to be uniquely this soil, uniquely Americanistic, uniquely Americana, that grass can be so many different things, seemingly imbuing his country with the power to make the individual independent. The individual can be anything the individual decides he or she is. And though none of these blades of grass are named, still they stand on their own. Though all of these blades of grass look roughly the same, still they have their own stories. That, in my opinion, is what is going in That, in my opinion, is what is going on in verse 6 of Song of Myself. If you like or appreciate this sort of thing, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other literature lovers. And if you find yourself here by chance but not design, literature is the only thing I talk about on this channel, dropping multiple videos every single week. There's poetry on the channel every Monday, and I hope to have you back for the next one.